The NFL preseason got underway last night, but we got some big news before the game started. Terry McLaurin has requested a trade out of Washington. What does that mean? Is it real? Will Washington listen to him? NFL Spotlight starts now. Welcome in. It is the Friday, August 1 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. A new month. The NFL preseason started. We got to see the Chargers and Lions. The first quarter of that game was crazy. There were 3 turnovers, a near pick six. Trey Lance threw a touchdown. Lions not looking so great. But again, it's preseason, no starters, but football is officially back. But before that game started, and I would assume it was perfectly timed and crafted to be like this, we got some big news out of Washington. Let me bring in my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what is going on? The NFL news cycle, it never stops.
It never stops, even when there's a game going on that everyone was seemingly pretty excited for. Terry McLaurin says, you know what? So much for this contract extension. You guys don't seem like you want to pay me the money that I deserve. Get me out of here. Ari, is this real? Is this a negotiating tactic? Does he really want out of Washington? Are they going to do it? I've got a million questions. Set us up here.
I mean, everybody has questions about it. And it's, again, like I said a few days ago when we spoke about Terry McLaurin, it's one of the more shocking and strange negotiations that I've seen in the last few years in the NFL. This is the model player you try to pay in your organization. And this has been going sideways for the last few months now. They've been trying to ramp up negotiations and it keeps on going nowhere. Communication has been weird. And Terry McLaurin basically said, enough is enough. He started off as a holdout, then became a hold in. He thought maybe that's going to help. It did not help. And now he's basically pressing the nuclear option here. Now, do I think Washington is going to trade him? No, I don't. I mean, this is a team that is coming off an NFC Championship game appearance. They obviously have a lot of excitement. They have a young quarterback. They have a veteran team. Nothing that they could possibly get back could replace Terry McLaurin, who is their number one receiver. But this has become the negotiating tactic around the NFL. And we've seen so many players press the nuclear button and request a trade. Earlier this offseason, we saw Myles Garrett do it. What happened in the end? He got an extension. We've seen T. Higgins do it. Trey Hendrickson do it. We've seen Brandon Ayuk do it. We've seen Deebo Samuel do it. There are endless examples of players who eventually request a trade when negotiations are not going well just to get the pressure to go higher. And that's basically what I think this is. And just to recap where these negotiations have been, Terry McLaurin saw another draft class mate of his, DK Metcalf, earlier this offseason get traded and get $33 million per year in new money from the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the money that he is looking for. And to this point, the Commanders have been nowhere close to that. And that has been the big issue here. And you look around the NFL, where the receiver market is, it's high. It's definitely skyrocketed here in the last several years. And that's what it costs to pay a number one receiver who has had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, who is a class act on the field, off the field. Really, like I've said, somebody you want in the organization, the type of player that you reward. I've seen some reporting out there that the Commanders, they don't want to pay him because he'll be 30 years old. Like I've said before on the show, Terry McLaurin is a player who in college did not play so much early on in his career. I believe only played 2 full seasons at Ohio State. And in the NFL, he has been durable and has only had one real playoff run, which was last year. So there's not much wear and tear. And the argument about his age, I get it. This is business and you want to make sure the players you pay, it's not about what you did before, it's what you do in the future. I will, remind people this is a Commanders organization that has been signing and trading a bunch of 30-plus-year-olds this entire offseason, the last offseason, from the Bobby Wagners and Zach Ertzes and Deebo Samuels and Laramie Tunsil's, Von Millers. I mean, there's a bunch of, this is the oldest roster in the NFL. So all of a sudden now complaining about this guy's age, it's kind of weird for me. I know though they're not big contracts or whatever, but this is your roster, by the way. You have young pieces there. Jamie Daniels is the young guy, obviously the superstar, but it's a very interesting argument to make over here, especially when you combine everything together. So when you ask me about the trade, no, I don't think he'll get traded. We'll see if he continues to press more buttons. We'll see if in training camp he's going to do some interviews or do more things on social media. I don't know what it is. Will he continue to press forward? We'll see. But this was the latest push of the year by him because it has not been a smooth negotiation, and it's time to really go off of here and try to make it awkward for the team and also get the fans upset. And Washington fans, you're from the DMV, they love him, and this is not good news for them.
Yeah, we've spoken about that a lot recently. I just straight up asked you, I'm like, why haven't they done it? And you've done a good job of getting into that. You did a little bit there. I'm curious now, though, if this is out there that he wants a trade, regardless of whether that is real or not, are there going to be teams that bring forth offers to the Commanders and say, hey, we're not sure if you really want to do this, but just take a look, see if this is something that would make you go, okay, maybe that is worth it. Do you anticipate that happening?
I mean, there have been teams around the NFL who have, inquired with the Commanders just to see what's going on, which is totally normal. Like, I love seeing those tweets sometimes. Team ABC has called this team to check on this player. Like, that's a normal thing that happens around the NFL. Executives are calling and texting each other all day long. That's normal. The question really becomes if the Commanders will ever take that seriously. When you think about it for a second, it would make no sense at all for where the organization is, where the roster is, who Terry McLaurin is, and what they could possibly get back. I mean, what could they possibly get back that will help the 2025 Washington Commanders? There's not many things that really make sense for me. I mean, there is an example from last year of a different receiver who wanted to trade or requested a trade in Brandon Ayuk. And as we all know, the 49ers actually looked into trading him and they were in a win now mode. And the only way they were going to trade him was if they got back a receiver. And if we recall, they had offers for Amari Cooper, they had offers for Kendrick Bourne and draft picks, but eventually they got a deal done. That's the only scenario where I see they even contemplated. But when you put Brandon Ayuk and Terry McLaurin together and what they mean for the franchise, Terry McLaurin has meant much more to the Washington Commanders franchise than Brandon Ayuk did, not just from on the field, but also off the field, and how the fans just genuinely love him and adore him. And we saw it when he reported back to training camp 4 days ago on Sunday. The fans were chanting Terry, Terry, Terry. Like there's an exclusive amount of players around the NFL who have that much love from their fan base, and Terry is one of them in Washington. So I don't see it happening. But his pay for this year, the final year of his contract, Ben, I don't know if you know the number. People might think it's 20 million. He's supposed to make $15 million this year. It's not a lot, right? So he wants more money this year, but more importantly, he wants to get a long-term commitment from this organization for what he's done and what he will continue to do for this team. And to this point, for whatever reason, Adam Peters and that organization, they have just not been interested in stepping forward and being a little bit more serious about it.
So, question here for you then. If you're a team that is going to be bringing forth an offer, let's just play hypothetical here. Could you see it be something a little bit like what the Dolphins and the Steelers did, where they said, hey, we'll give you a safety for your cornerback, and we're going to toss in a tight end as well heading out to Pittsburgh? Would that make sense? Do you think that if there were to be a trade that would be made, it would probably be a player for player as opposed to a future pick?
I mean, I don't see a single scenario. First of all, I don't see them trading him, but I don't see any scenario where they're trading Terry McLaurin in exchange for 2026 draft picks. And that's it. This is a team that has aspirations of winning the NFC East and potentially making it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they were a game away last year. So trading away Terry McLaurin does everything against that. And just keep in mind for a second what they did this offseason. They went out and they traded for Deebo Samuel. They went out and traded for Laramie Tunsil. They went out and signed a bunch of players like a Javon Kinlaw. They just signed Von Miller. Like they signed a bunch of players here this offseason to try to get over the hump. So why would you trade one of your 3, 4 important players, at least from the roster, besides for Jaden Daniels, away for 2026 draft capital? That is the same question that we've asked for Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. It's the same question that it was laughable at the time about TJ Watt in Pittsburgh. There was no chance they were ever going to trade him, right? I mean, this is a team that is trying to win this year, and trading him is the complete opposite of it. So I don't see it happening. If there's any scenario, it would have to be player for player. But like I said before, he is just too important for that franchise and what they're trying to do. I don't see a trade happening here. I just think this is a negotiating tactic to make Adam Peters, Josh Harris, and the entire organization there to step it up and be more serious. And again, last month or a few weeks ago, he did a media session He said, "We have not spoken in a month." That makes no sense to me. So these are all tactics to get them to, hey, start taking us more seriously here and let's have a real negotiation and let's figure out the numbers and look at where the market is for receivers. Try to figure out where I belong because the market speaks for itself. A lot of receivers are 30 plus $1 million, and that's where he thinks he belongs right now.
Do you think there's actually parallels to this to what's going on with Trey Hendrickson, where it's like you have this player that's clearly put up the production, but the numbers that are being sent by the team don't reflect what the greater market is, and quite frankly, they're not really even asking for that top dollar?
It's a perfect example actually because one of the things that organizations have a struggle with, and especially now with all the data and analytics and all the different people that they have within an organization, is do you really want to invest big money into a player for a third contract who is now entering his age 30 plus season? Trey's already there. Terry will be there. That is a question that all the analytics people within an organization and every single team around the NFL rely on them, some of them more than others. And that's a real question about, do we really want to put real money, real cap dollars into a player like that, regardless of what they've done for us in the past? Like I've said before, you don't pay players for what they did for you before. You pay for what they're going to do for you in the future. And that's basically what they are looking at over here in Washington. So that has been really the big holdup here in both those cases. And, these two situations, like they're going to point to a player like TJ Watt, who just got a third contract and he got 3 years fully guaranteed. We deserve to be something like that. I could see these teams also being like, well, look at Cortland Sutton in Denver, who's also about to be 30 years old. He just signed a contract for $23 million per year. So we should look at that. So there's going to be different examples thrown around over here when it comes to players in these situations. But these players, Trey, Terry, they believe that they've done so much to this point, and they believe their bodies have a lot more to offer for these teams. And they believe these teams are not recognizing that right now. And that's why both those players in particular have been so upset for months and months.
All right, put your thinking cap on here. We just had our first preseason game last night, so football is back. Preseason, we're assuming Terry may not be there. How long could this drag on for if you really anticipate that they're not going to trade him? Do you think that this is going to be something in which the Commanders feel the pressure from the fan base, they feel the pressure from the media, they look at the numbers and say, okay, like we have to make this work? Does this drag into the season, or is this something that you think is resolved sooner than later?
I mean, I would imagine it gets resolved. I mean, like we said before, there's just so much the positive vibe there in Washington dating back to last year. For this to happen, it's kind of unfortunate. I get it, business is business. I've also wondered, and this is again, Adam Peters is a new GM in the NFL. He just got hired last year, so we're still like learning more about him. Let's remember where he came from, which is San Francisco. What have we learned about San Francisco the last several years? They have had a lot of negotiations drag out. Brandon Ayuk last year, a couple years ago, Nick Bosa. They had Debo Samuel. I mean, they had a kicker drag out of Robbie Gold, for God's sake. So they had a lot of those. And this is really the first one that we've seen now in Washington under this Adam Peters leadership. And he's been around the NFL of many different organizations, but his last one was with John Lynch and Parag Marathe, who is their lead negotiator there. Is he basically taking out of their notebook and being like, no, we're going to be shrewd negotiators and try to save as much money as possible and make sure that the deal we end up doing is the very, very best deal for us and is the best deal that they're going to get from us that they're willing to accept. That could be part of this as well, where he is okay with letting stuff drag because he sees the value in the long term by doing that. So I'm still trying to learn more about Adam Peters and how he works as a GM. I'm just surprised that they're doing it with, a guy like Terry McLaurin, but that's what's happening here. And I think we all were kind of surprised when it was happening with other players in San Francisco, like it happened with, Nick Bosa, and it happened with Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel and all those players. So it's definitely happened before over there. And maybe that's just the norm that's going to be in Washington moving forward, where it comes to negotiations, it's going to be difficult. Think about it for a second. They have not had to do many big deals. The only one that I could think of that is their own player to this point has been last year with Sam Cosmi, their offensive lineman, which offensive line contracts rarely get that much attention in the first place when it comes to the media landscape. So we'll see. Maybe this becomes the norm in Washington and we just got to get, used to it. But I would just be shocked if this does not some way, somehow figure itself out before week 1 versus the New York Giants. It would ruin everything. We saw how it affected the Cincinnati Bengals last year in the beginning of the season, not figuring out Jamar Chase and how they started the year slowly. I don't think they want that to happen to them up here going into the season. So we still have a lot of time over here until the season starts. I would imagine cooler heads prevail because, like I've said for weeks now, it's a very, very strange holdout to have with a player like this.
We'll be covering it as it goes step by step here on NFL Spotlight, as we say every single day. Please make sure you go out there, subscribe. We see our numbers on YouTube. We see your numbers. We see how many viewers we're getting. Just hit the subscribe button while you're there. We appreciate it. It's fantastic for us. Every single time it seems like things are going to slow down a little bit with these news stories. We get something new. So stick with us here. Ari's going to keep doing his thing. Unless you got anything else, Ari, let's take him home.
Yep, that will do it here for our Friday, August 1 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. We will be back here on Monday morning to start a fresh week. Get ready for the next batch of preseason games when the rest of the NFL joins on. And I'm positive actually, we will have more news happening over the weekend, which we will get to on Monday morning. We will see you then.